talking about the power of an apology, and now a story of forgiveness across generations. Our next guest, award-winning writer Adam Schwartz, recently shared a deeply personal essay in Newsweek that caught our attention. This was the headline: "My father kept secret his mother's deathbed apology. It stopped me cold." This is his story.
My dad was, in many ways, a great father. Very steady, really smart, judicious man. But in addition to all those things, he didn't know how to lift us up. I think he thought that the best way to improve me and improve my siblings was to point out our shortcomings. I just kind of wilted under my dad's expectations, and I dropped out of high school altogether. Eventually, I straightened up. I was 23, and I went back to college and did well. It was gradual, but he did begin to offer praise. We came to a place where I feel like we understood one another. I had asked my dad a lot about what his life was like growing up. Typically, he would brush these questions off and signal to me that the conversation had concluded, usually before it even got started. Right before the pandemic, my dad passed away at the age of 92. In the weeks that followed, his wife, Ellen, gave me a couple boxes of his belongings. And there was this letter from his mom, which was really a kind of deathbed apology, in which she appealed for my dad's forgiveness for the harms she had done. It just got me on this track thinking my dad harmed me in some ways, but maybe it wasn't his fault. Whatever bitter resentments I was holding on to, I let them go.
Wow. Fam, please welcome Adam Schwartz to the show.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this is a flood of emotions, I can imagine, even hearing you tell the story. For our audience, I want to share a little bit of what your grandmother Alice wrote in the letter. She wrote to your father, whose name is Richard. The family called him Dick. "Dear Dick, for all the things I've done that were wrong, please forgive me. My son, try to understand I didn't do them intentionally, but because of the desperate life I led. Just as Nana and Grandpa didn't intend to injure their children, yet they harmed us no end. Try to profit by what happened and don't hurt your precious children. The end is drawing very near for me. I'm reluctant to die. I really wanted to get to know you again. I love you with all my heart, your mom."
It's a lot.
It is a lot, and you always wonder when that last moment comes for all of us, and it will, what do you want your last words to be? What do you want to set the record straight about? And she wanted to clear it up.
She did. And, you know, I'd always asked my father about what his life was like growing up, and he brushed off those questions usually. He was a very private man. I knew his parents had argued a lot. I knew he'd been unhappy at home. I knew he joined the Navy when he was 17 and served in the last year of World War II. But I didn't understand what he was carrying really until I saw that letter. The letter sort of reshaped for me like an understanding of why my father maybe was the way he was.
It's interesting you say that because he'd received the letter from her. I'm assuming he read the letter, but he fell into the same behaviors, right? Because this is a warning to him. Don't do to your precious children what I did to you.
Right.
But it was so ingrained. That's what they talk about. Trauma and behavior becomes so ingrained. So even if he wanted to treat you all in a different way, it seemed that he couldn't. Because all he knew was that your grandmother, they rode him hard. They were disciplined in this way.
Right.
And I think a lot of folks were back then because you tell people you got to keep your head down, you got to work hard, you got to study hard because life isn't easy. And you think tough love is how you love.
Right. The letter really helped me see my father in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, my siblings and I, we always wondered why my dad was the way he was.
It becomes crystal clear when you see this.
Yes, yeah.
You are a parent now. You have a child on the way to college. How did it change you once you read that? Did you do some self-reflection? Because even though we say, I don't want to be like my parent, you look at yourself sometimes and you go, oh, I sound like my parent.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I was already there
Yeah.
before I saw the letter.
Yeah.
You know, I was already determined when I became a father that I wasn't going to do to my son what my dad did to me.
Right.
You know, I have an older brother who's a psychologist, and so once I was having this exact conversation with him, and you know, I said, you know, I'm not going to do to my son what Dad did to us, and so my psychologist brother said, "Careful, the pendulum doesn't swing too far the other way," and that stuck with me and made an impression on me, but it didn't really change how I was going to parent or father.
What do you think the lesson is? I mean, you shared it with Newsweek to the world. What do you hope the world takes from that letter in revealing this?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that my belief is that children thrive best when they're encouraged. Not so much that it's meaningless, but people need belief poured into them, and children need belief poured into them from their parents.
Right.
And you know, expressions of disapproval, expressions of doubt are harmful when they're
And I think
the prevailing message.
correcting it now, because I don't think any of us want the last minute to be, I'm sorry I did it, because
Right.
then it's too late.
Right.
Then it's too late. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing
Yeah,
it.
thank you so
I
much for having
appreciate
me.
it. This is the
Yeah.
kind of story that sticks with you and you'll be thinking about it.